This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome in, Paul Catalina and Royden Ogletree.
Yeah, there we go.
I mean, we're here together on the set, facing the camera and the screen so that it looks like we're having a conversation with you. Even though we're technically not, we're having a conversation with each other. These are what we call TV tricks.
It's all about the fans.
Yeah, it is. So,
except it's about us.
You know, for those of you, if just one viewer, no.
30 cents a day can feed one Paul Catalina.
No, it really can't.
Not me either, dude.
It really cannot. No. I hear that it's like for the price of a cup of coffee a day, you can feed one child. And I'm like, well, he needs more than that. That's the problem.
Well, yeah.
I mean, he needs, like, I get it. Like, we can get him some food and he'll be all right. But, like, should we maybe if that's just that's what they said, like, listen, you know the cup of coffee thing, but that's like a little bowl of porridge for these kids. Like, maybe you can buy 3 cups of coffee for these poor little kids and get them 3 squares. I don't know. Don't be a dick about it.
Yeah, maybe it's apocryphal or something, but have you heard the old anecdote? And I don't know if it's true, but I want to believe it's true. At a concert, a U2 concert, Bono stopped the music and the crowd went silent and he started clapping his hands. And he started clapping his hands like this every couple of seconds. And he said, every time I clap my hands, another child dies of hunger. And somebody in the crowd yelled, well, stop clapping your hands, you wanker. So, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's my feed the kids anecdote.
But, like, what was Bono? Like, they made fun of him on a very famous episode of South Park that was about poop.
As it always is.
Yeah, but, like, it was, you know, like, how can a guy, like, do so many good things but still be a big piece of crap?
Yeah.
Like, that was kind of the thing about Bono.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I don't know, like, he does have that vibe of where he's, like, talking down to all of us.
Yeah, you need to be better. You're the one you're a billionaire.
Yeah, I mean, like, I appreciate you doing it, but, like, you know, I didn't write the Joshua Tree.
Yeah.
So, you know.
I didn't put my album on all of your iPhones against your will.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, I wanted to ask you today, Royden, your feelings on a 6-game winning streak and how it feels to end a season that, you know, you're apoplectic about.
Yeah, I was. I got on this show and in not so many words said that probably Dave Aranda was going to lose his job. And, you know, I had to tweet out. I was just like, look, hand up. I was wrong. Look, and it's not just me. I'm going to do the blame game. All of y'all were wrong. All of y'all.
Yeah.
He was on every national media, ESPN, CBS Sport, all of it. Coaches on the hot seat after that 2-4 start. Mm-hmm. It looked hopeless, and they looked really, really after that Colorado loss and that Iowa State beatdown. Really, they looked lost, and they looked really, really. You know, the word apoplectic. Yeah, I was. I didn't see the direction. I truly did not see the vision. Defense starts flying to the ball. They're still giving up. They gave up like 500 yards in that Kansas game, but they had 3 takeaways.
But they get it. Like, look, this is not a good defense.
Yeah.
But they're effective.
Yeah.
So they know when they have to. Mm-hmm. And I think they stopped worried about the yards thing. I think that was kind of in their heads. Like, they're giving up a lot of yards. Oh, man, that was a big play. All right, look, as long as the big play doesn't end in the end zone, you're okay.
Yeah. It turns out.
That's a mentality it's hard to get, I think, into a lot of teams' heads, is that every play that doesn't end in the end zone, you're okay.
Yeah.
You're okay. Now, that's hard. It's hard to know that. But the teams that do grasp it and go, all right, look, as long as they kick a ball or we don't let them do either of those things,
right,
this is a success.
Well, it turns out that 3 points is less than 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, look, just holding Kansas to, like, field goal attempts, and, of course, like, they had picks in the end zone and things like that. But getting those big time turnovers down the stretch when they got them, and they didn't have the hardest schedule going down the stretch. A lot of people knew that, but it doesn't matter. You win 6 in a row. You're 8-4. You have one of the best, if not the best, ranked recruiting class in the Big 12 coming in next year, and you got a quarterback and a wide receiver and a running back duo, and not to mention like Michael Trigg and a bunch of other, like a lot of your offensive line coming back. Man, I feel good. Now, I would like to see if, with the caveat, I would like to see if Aranda and company can. Let's go to 9 wins. Next season, let's flirt with 10 wins because we have all this.
Well, look,
stuff.
10-2 probably gets you in the playoff,
and it does. And maybe that's,
at least in the
maybe
the championship game.
Maybe that's wish casting on all that, But I think that what it's been for Aranda in his career, it has been high highs and low lows. Like you come off that Big 12 championship game, and that team that went 6 and 7 down the stretch of that season, they completely flipped that season. Yeah. If you just discount the 3 and 9 season that they had in between, but he's gone up and way down, and then he's come back up again. I don't want the roller coaster. If Baylor football will always be cheered for by the team. Now people are going to be like, man, why can't we win the Big 12 or be in that? If you give yourself the best programs that I've seen that don't have of the non-blue bloods, let's call it that, of the non-blue bloods, the best success that you can hope for as a fan in college football is that your team wins 8 games every year. And then occasionally, the Dan Mullen effect, occasionally you're going to win 10 or 11. And you'll just surprise people occasionally. I think the days of what Baylor fans really want, if I'm speaking candidly, is they want the run you over days of Bryles where they were winning 11, 12, flirting with 13 games or whatever. And I just don't think it would be great if that was what Baylor football was, but you got to think of the history of Baylor football and how many of those teams there have been in Baylor football.
And I also don't think you're going to see a lot of 10-win seasons strung together anymore for anybody.
Right.
For anybody. Like you might have, think of it, because again, it's going to look more like the NFL.
Yeah.
Because there is more parity, because there's free agency.
Yeah.
Like that's what I do think, that there's a lot of people that are
even
still
more
stuck in the old goal.
Yeah.
I mean, like you have unrestricted free agency.
Yeah.
Unrestricted free agency all the time. And so there's going to be an ebb and flow that even affects the ones who have a handle on it more than the others, right? It's going to affect everybody in some sort of way. Like, some people, like, it's like the stock market. Like some people, there's a crash and they lose everything. Some people, there's a crash and they're just like tighten the belt for a couple years.
I'll wait for it to rebound up because there's always going to be an upswing.
Yeah. We'll call it the Florida State-Alabama scale. So Florida State, there's a crash. They lost everything, right? Alabama had this little crash, and they're like, maybe no corporate retreat in Cabo this year. We'll just do it in Denver. Like that. Those kind of things. Like that's what they're going to do. But then Florida State has to, like, hey, look, we've got to fire our CFO and all these other things. Yeah. So they're going to change the whole.
By the way, it's never the CFO anymore.
It's
all the little people. But that's a conversation for a different time about.
Yeah. But like that's the thing, and there's going to be a company like I'm going to keep using the stock metaphor that's like a meme stock.
Yeah.
There's like going to be a GameStop in there. It's going to go up. It's going to have this great run, and then it's going to crash. Because again,
it's going to cause a lot of panic along the way for a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you see. Like, there's a lot of teams that are theoretically meme stocks.
Yeah.
We'll see if they are or not when they come back, but that's what they're going to be. So you're going to have all of this, go on, and it's going to be more than, well, Georgia's going to be good for a decade. Yeah, they'll be good, but will they be great for a decade? No.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be some things that happen. There's going to be a year where, like this year, they put a crap load of guys in the NFL. The guys they had behind them weren't quite as good, but still really good.
Your quarterback regressed.
Like, you're going to have these things happen. just like they do in professional sports. You're just going to see them where, how many years, Royden, have you been watching the Texans? I mean, this is a great year for that, saying, hey, there's nothing wrong with this team on paper. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, but, you still got to play. When you watch them play, oh, wait, well, guess what? Both guards are all of a sudden terrible after they were good last year. Mm-hmm. And that's affected the entire offense in a way couldn't understand. The best wide receivers hurt for 7 weeks. The guy that they traded for and we're excited to have tore his ACL in the middle of that. You played 3 games without the number 1 or number 2 wide receiver. All these things happen to you. We signed this free agent. It didn't really work out. Or we signed a free agent and he got hurt. Or we thought this guy was going to be better than he was. This young guy, he's not there yet. That happens in the NFL all the time. It's easily masked of the dynasties in college football. Yeah. Georgia could just be like, oh, well, this 5-star didn't work out. We're going to put him on the bench until he goes in the portal, and then we've got two more behind him. Well, now they don't have 2 more. They may not even have 1. There might be a little bit of a talent drop-off there. That might be a transfer as well to fill some gaps because they had a 5-star that wasn't playing. The guy in front of him had 2 years of eligibility left. He has 4. Well, is he going to sit around and wait, or is he going to go? Well, then he's going to go.
That's why I think that's the biggest argument, and we've done it, ad nauseum on this show, is the biggest argument against preseason rankings and so on and so forth. It takes out, and now these college football rankings, it takes out the inherent need to play football. Mm-hmm. It's just we've gotten away from watching what happened on the field, mm-hmm. and it's a little asinine and ridiculous. I think we've really taken away that, and I think the NFL does a good job of this. It's well, hey man,
what happens on Sundays?
Happens on Sundays matter. It's everybody's well, Baltimore's still good. I'm are they? The Texans in Baltimore are 8-5.
Yeah,
they're it's the flirting versus harassment meme.
Bill Parcells, you say it. You are what your record says you are.
Yeah,
and so we don't do that in college football because there's a lot more points of comparison. Yeah. There's not just the 32 teams, right?
There's 100 data points. Obviously.
Yeah, there's obviously more of it, but part of that is also the data points that we're always well, we're always going to be better than you, aren't as better anymore.
Yeah.
They're not because of what we just talked about free agency. It culls the herd a little bit.
So you don't think that this season is more of an anomaly? You think this is going to
I think this is the future.
You think so?
I think this is the future. Now, look, the SEC and the Big Ten and whoever can will find ways to bend it back as hard as they can. But given the fact that, what rule can you make? Because the only way that they can bend it back in their direction completely is something they don't want to do, which is collective bargaining and contracts.
Yeah.
That's the only thing they can do. Well, if you're not willing to do that, that's how the NFL controls it. That's how the NFL has, doesn't have, ridiculously drastic swings. That's how they can keep their hand on the wheel. But because they have collective bargaining. Now, look, they would love to not have collective bargaining and just be like professional wrestling and be like, look, you're going to make a bunch of money. Don't worry about your kidneys. It's not you can get hit in the back with a metal chair 7,000 times before you get the first
signs of bleeding in your urine.
Signs of bleeding internally. So, as long as we don't do that all in one day, you should have a nice long career.
I mean, the way that would really actually do it, and I don't actually want to do this, but the way that would sort of cull a little bit of the unrestricted free agency or whatever is the transfer rule of having to sit out again. Mm-hmm. They'll never do that again.
They can't.
So that would do it. I think a little bit. Still wouldn't stop somebody from being unhappy and going and transferring, immediately for more money or whatever while they sit out. But that would do it. I don't want to do that. I don't have an answer for what would satisfy that. But I'll be interested to see if this is a case study or if this is permanent for. I would like for it to be permanent. The more parity in college football stops some of the ridiculous takes that we end up having, or maybe we've actually dove headlong into more ridiculous takes because fan bases that aren't used to losing are now losing more games than they were anticipating. And it's started people with brain worms like getting online and saying, no, we deserve to be here, there, and the other. And it's like, well, you had 3 losses. Like, you know, I don't know.
It's very strange. Let's take a break right here. When we come back, I'm going to ask the question of the day to Royden. Will Ryan Day ever be loved in Columbus, or will he just be tolerated until he's gone?
That's a great question.
And even if he wins the national title, will he be loved, or will he just be liked?
Oh, Paul, what is love, man?
Well, that's the question I think he's going to be asking himself all off season. What is love? This is 365 Sports and the Triple Option.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back, Paul Catalina, alongside Royden Ogletree. And Royden, I asked you the question before the break. Will Ryan Day ever be loved in Columbus? Urban Meyer is still loved in Columbus. He won a national title in spite of his Urban Meyer-ness. You know, the fact that he is Urban Meyer, they do love him there. He is not loved anymore in Gainesville. He's liked in Gainesville. He's appreciated, but I do think that given the fact that it's been almost 20 years since they won a national title, and they've been through like 4 coaches since then, and it's been this kind of roller coaster, I think they blame his departure on.
I bet he still drinks for free in Gainesville.
I'm sure he does, but I'm sure that it's like one of the things like, thanks, coach. You know.
Why'd you leave?
Yeah. Hey, there's going to be some co-eds here later. Make sure nobody's filming you with a camera. There you go, hot shot.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a cell phone camera now, jackass. Here.
Coach, does your wife know you're here?
You know what's sad about that? She did know he was there.
Yeah.
She was tweeting about it. Like, I'm home giving the grandkids a bath, and Urban's out living it up. Meanwhile, somebody's like, yeah, he is. That's right. Sure
Snap.
thing. Looks like you're having a good time.
Shahan Jayaraja, who y'all have had on this show, and who will be on our Inside the 12, Big 12 show coming up on YouTube and ESPN. Quick plug for that. I only say that because I just had to produce an hour-long show, so it took forever. Shahan posited that Ryan Day has to straight up just win a national championship this year.
And you know what? Even then, I don't know that, like, that'll save his job for sure.
If you win a national championship, it cures all ills. You're not nobody with a brain, with a pulse or any amount of brain cells is going to be like, well, you didn't beat Michigan.
What I do think, well, that's the problem though. That's the problem. He's not going to be dealing with. They're like, oh, like there's going to be a lot of people like, well, we won this stupid national championship, so now he's here, but he can't beat Michigan. So I don't even know how to feel. Like that's going to be.
I would take a loss to TCU by 1,000 every year if I substituted it with a national championship.
I don't think they realize how much they'll forget about it.
Yeah,
like they'll just forget about it, and you know. I think about.
I'm sorry, I lost to the team. Count the rings. Like it's not like No,
I think they'd forget about it. I just think that right now they don't know that they'd forget about it. Like they've put 100 years. I mean, look, that rivalry justifiably calls itself the game. Like they say the game. It's not just a game. It's the game, and then all the other fan bases who have Look, A&M and Texas is a huge 100-year rivalry that took a decade pause, a little more than a decade. But, its nickname is literally the game. So because it's the game, they'll never think of it as a game, no matter how things change, because it's the game. It's in the name. So it's just, I think that's the thing. I think if Ohio State loses in the playoff, I think the best thing for Ryan Day to do would be just to go take another job.
Yeah, I agree with that point.
He could Gus Malzahn the situation and just go, hey, I've always wanted to coach in the NFL, which I actually think he might be a pretty okay NFL coach.
Yeah.
Because if you wind up being the coach of the Jets next year, right? And you don't beat the Patriots 4 years in a row, but you go to the playoffs, like the way
people in New York would be like building you a statue.
Yeah, exactly. Like you keep going to the playoffs, you compete, you win the division, like all those things are going to be like, we keep winning the division, but damn, we can't beat those Patriots. Just love to beat them, but people won't drill down on it.
It's annoying. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the end of the world for those folks.
But it's going to take people a long time to get adjusted to that.
Yeah.
Because of how college football differs from the NFL. But now, that's...
But we talked about this in the last segment about like how, the parity and all that. But there is no parity against Ryan Day in Michigan.
No, 1-4. So.
Yeah, there is no parity.
They're in his head.
Yeah.
They're totally in his head.
So it's like, this is why I do love college football, because rivalries still do matter to folks. And like, I think more and more we've gotten away from like taking that away from people. And we've talked about this a lot as well too, but we've gotten more and more about taking that away from people and the regionality of the sport and so on and so forth. But that's why it's still awesome, is that you're just going to have even team, if a team isn't even good, like, okay, Arizona, we're going to talk about the flag planting in a little bit, but like Arizona and Arizona State, that game for Arizona, even though they are kind of a dumpster fire this year, meant something to them, so much so that they got in a fight after the game.
Yeah.
Like, it still matters to these people, and it still matters to these players, regardless of where they come from and what. They all kind of buy into this. I just think, like, I think if you can't start taking that away, but to the point of if you win a national championship, would the Michigan game still matter? Maybe I'm not in the mindset. I don't know. Does anybody else have an opinion? I don't know. I think it's crazy if you won a national championship and then everybody was like, "Oh, I still got to fire him,"
Yeah.
Like,
no, they're not going to do that, but like it's going to put them in a position where it'll be interesting to see. Like, I don't even care about the Michigan game anymore. It's over. Like,
that is what you should do.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah.
Fan therapy session right now, real quick. But I got to look directly into the camera.
Sam Kim disagrees with me that if you can't be a leader of 20-year-olds, then why the heck would Ryan Day be a leader of men? Stop it. No, I like those are two distinctly different.
People take care of themselves in the NFL.
Yeah. So like, the other thing is like you just get to be the coach.
Yeah,
like you really do just get to be the coach. Now they have more responsibilities, but you have everything at your disposal. It is, while you still have to work hard, given today's landscape, it's an immensely easier job. And there's pressure, a lot of pressure, especially given the places that you go. Like, look, Ryan Day is the coach of the Cowboys next year. Look, he's jumping out of the frying pan and into the fire.
Is Ryan Day the highest paid public employee in Ohio?
Yeah.
That's a whole different thing.
Yeah. But if Ryan Day becomes, and they're not going to do this because they've already gone down that road, but no, I was going to say the Jaguars, but say he's the coach of like I said,
Bengals.
the Jets, the Bengals, the Titans, like whatever. Yeah. Like if he's the coach of that team, it's going to be different. It's going and look, I actually think his attitude, the way he's bristles at things, means he's a little too, like, you can be an NFL coach and be a little bit bristly, and like that's fine. You can't, I don't think in college you can anymore. So his personality fits the NFL more. I don't like like he's not, and look, he's not failing the 20-year-olds 90% of the time.
No.
I mean, most of the time, that's what's weird about it is most of the time he wins in pretty good fashion, but the problem is he doesn't beat these bigger teams because it's in his head about it because the games mean so much more than that. I think if you took Ryan Day, made him the coach of the Bears, for God's sakes, and gave him Caleb Williams, I think that would actually probably work out okay.
I think that offense would be humming. I think the idea that you couldn't be an NFL coach because you go from being literally the CEO of a company basically to then being, I don't even know the comparison. Like you are the CEO of a whole company basically when you are the head coach of a college program. You go to the NFL, if you're not Belichick, who was doing all the drafting and everything, most NFL teams don't want to hand over that amount of responsibility to anybody anymore because Belichick flubbed it so hard at the very end. But the idea that you couldn't walk in and just implement a scheme and coach is, I think, a little ridiculous because NFL players, you have to get them moving in the right direction, but they're all fighting for contracts. They're handling their own. They're grown men. They handle their own.
Well, the other thing is in college, and I know that like Sam just brought up, and look, yeah, he doesn't beat the teams with equal talent. That does say something. Yeah, okay. But I'm just saying that like in the NFL that it's I'm telling you, easier to navigate right now. Yeah. And Lincoln Riley's in this category too, where I think Lincoln Riley, especially as cagey as he's about everything, will love the structure of the NFL. Because again, you don't have to be a CEO of anything. You really don't. Like your job is coaching the team, and the buck, while it does stop with you eventually, there's an owner and a GM ahead of you that made decisions. They hired you. Now, most of the time you work in Congress with the GM, and those are the successful ones that they're, like Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch that work together.
Right.
But then there's the times it's like, where the Cowboys, it's like you work underneath the GM, and that's very clear.
Right.
And you serve completely at the pleasure, but it's not as cohabitative a relationship or cooperative relationship as it might seem. Even though Jerry may say, yeah, okay, you tell me who you want and I'll go get them. The problem is that, you say, hey, we really need this and this and this and this. And then when Jerry sees a shiny thing, he's going to be like, ooh, I know you want that. And I'll get you that. I promise you. But like,
new toy.
Did you see that? I'm like, yeah, but we don't have this. We really need this. It's killing us. We need to spend more money on this. He's like, yeah, but I like that.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. This guy who told me everything I wanted to hear just now also really likes that.
Right.
And he got here last. So.
I've been talking to your face for a long time. I don't want to talk to your face anymore.
That's how that works. So.
Will he ever be loved in Columbus?
Yeah.
If he went on a streak of, say, by the grace of God, they win the national championship this year. The only way that he could be truly loved, I agree with you, is if they had to beat Michigan like 3 times. He had to have like an even record going out.
Here's what I would do if I were him, because the calendar will work out in a certain way. Probably there'll be an NFL job open.
Yeah.
At that time of year, if he goes and wins if he wins the championship on January 20th, on January 22nd, he should be the coach of the Bengals.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'd be like. Yep, nope, coach of the Bengals now. Joe Burrow, all that stuff. Yeah, I'm doing that. That's where I'm going. That's what I would do. I'd be like, okay, and then get out. Because sometimes this is not, and sometimes it's not a fit. And I don't believe in definitive, you brought up Belichick. He's the definitive example of, let's not judge it on just this one thing. He cannot get over the Michigan hump, and he's not beating teams that are better. That's true. And look, I don't particularly care for Ryan Day. I'm not advocating for Ryan Day in any way, shape, or form. I think coaches like him and Dabo and James Franklin and people like that, like Zach Gelb, I see eye to eye on this. They're insufferable. They really do, get a whiff of themselves and think and I don't need to conform, I don't need to adapt or this is that. Yeah, he's got that problem, and maybe it wouldn't work out. But I also know that if you would judge Bill Belichick on Cleveland,
Right.
He would still be the best defensive coordinator in the history of the NFL that never was a good head coach.
Yeah, or Nick Saban on going the other way. Nick Saban on the Dolphins.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, he couldn't win with the Dolphins. Well, what makes you think he can come and just win it? Be the greatest college football coach of all time. Like there are paths throughout your life, and I'd hate to be judged on the one thing I wasn't good at before I figured out I wasn't good at it.
Yeah.
Now, the best thing anybody in life can do, but coaches can do, is figure out what they're not good at and admit it. Dave Aranda is the best example of this, is because they figured out all the things they did wrong, and they were very candid about, we did not do this right.
Yeah.
So now we're going to change the way we do it because the idea I had didn't work. Now there's still,
and he was admonished for that a little bit at first when it wasn't really working, but it turned in the other way.
Also, like when you have to like wipe the slate completely clean, like there's going to be probably some like, oh well, it's still not working.
A good idea?
Yeah, but we're not going to do it the way that we did, which was going really poorly.
Right.
There's still some aftershock. That you have to get through, and so that's a huge thing. But the real tragedy is that there's still people out there trying to do alchemy and turn things into gold that they can't do because they're like, no, I know that I'll get this. Okay, well, like for Ryan Day in Michigan, are you not going to coach tight? Are you going to just the other thing is, you watch the last 4 games against Michigan, even when they're equally talented, right? And look, they have been, except for this year, they were way more talented than Michigan.
And that's why I think people are so up in arms about it too.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, this is a thing now.
Yeah.
And it's a thing because he knows it's a thing, and it's there, and don't think about a zebra, okay. Well, now I'm thinking about a zebra.
Yeah.
All right. Well, definitely don't think about that zebra, running through your house and breaking all your stuff. Well, now I'm worried that the zebra's, he's not just there, he's rabid.
And everybody's naked. Oh no.
Yeah. It just keeps going and going and going. But
I think you have to start at the baseline of is Ryan Day a good head coach? And the answer is definitively yes.
Yeah.
And look, he has handed the keys
is he
to
a great head coach? TBD.
Yeah, you have to start at, I think obviously everybody always says that good is the enemy of great, yada yada yada, but I think there are, 120 other programs in the nation that would probably want Ryan Day as their head coach. And I just think that he needs to get over some of these milestones and some of these humps for people in Columbus to have the success that they're known to have or want to have. But the problem is that the next guy is still roulette, Russian roulette. Really, is you don't really know what you're going to get unless you go and get if you go and get Dan Lanning from Oregon, that doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Well, I don't know. Obviously, they want wins against Michigan. They want national championships.
Yeah.
But the idea that all of a sudden that people are like Ryan Day's a horrible head coach is just ridiculous. And I think we need to take. I think people need to take a breath and take a step back. And if you're Ryan Day, you also need to look in the mirror and be like, why can't we do this? But that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. I look at it. I'm not stumping for him. I'm not stumping for James Franklin. I just do think that there's probably a different job for Ryan Day that he will be more successful at because he's clearly good at this one. He's just not great at it. And at Ohio State, they fire good coaches
to try to get to the great ones.
Yeah. John Cooper wasn't a bad coach, right? But he's looked upon negatively because he wasn't great. And that's what they aspire to. Now, some programs have never experienced great, so they're thrilled with good.
Yeah.
They're thrilled with good. Once you kind of experience it, though, then you know that, okay, well, we're going to be striving for great. The tragedy is that do you get rid of a great coach before he's great? And I do think that there's a lot of human frailty around the some people are born great. Some people have greatness thrust upon them. A lot of people don't get that second part.
Right.
Where they're like, you're born great or not. And you're like, okay, well, what are you great at? Madden. Born that way.
I'm really good tweeter to like,
you know,
10
so like
to 10 people.
That's the thing. Sometimes you have to, like, being great takes work. You know, Michael Jordan wasn't born a great basketball player. He was born with great work ethic, right? He had that.
Athletic ability, yeah.
Athletic ability. He was born with that, but work ethic had to be instilled in him and all that, you know. So, and even I think the more true part of that cliche is some have greatness thrust upon them, because eventually you put yourself in a position to have greatness thrust upon you.
Yeah, to run headlong into it.
Yeah. So,
some would argue that
he has had those opportunities and missed them. So
yeah,
far.
that's what I'm saying. Some people would argue that that's just the Ohio State program
that he
is the
be.
greatness that you inherit regardless.
Yeah, I mean, like that. And then look, he's had that and he has not cashed in on him, but that doesn't mean that that's the right situation. You know, I can think of.
I'll tell you what, it's not going to be the Jets.
Yeah, yeah. But and I think of, like, you and I both love movies in a way that's not entirely healthy.
Not really.
Yeah, but there are actors who I used to flat out go, "What is this guy?"
Yeah.
Like, why is this guy in all these things that I want to?
We'll take Texas's favorite son, McConaughey, for an example.
Okay, yeah. McConaughey would do things like, "Oh, hey, that's good," and then he'd do 5 other things that I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, let's do A Time to Kill again.
Yeah.
Let's not do Ghost of Girlfriend's Past.
I was going to say, yeah. He did like 18 rom-coms, and he had admitted as such. He like listened to him, and then he's just like, then I got Mud. And then you're like,
and then like, but the thing is, he knew that it was like, he knew the path he had to take.
Yeah.
And he knew the crap he'd have to eat. And he also had the good, I think, like, okay, I'm going to have to eat a little crap, but they're just going to give me $4 million to do this thing, or $8 million to fall in love with Kate Hudson again. Like, bummer. Like,
oh, darn, I get to go vacation in Bali and make a movie.
Yeah, like, all right, like he has the Burt Reynolds, motto of like, make it like, again, I'm not in a factory.
Yeah.
making movies. Like, I'm not it's like putting a screw on top of a thing and putting a screw on top of a thing and moving it on, and the guy puts the paint on it. Like, that's not. So I think that sometimes, you have to go, like, this could be his. And there are some times where actors are about to be really good. They get the wrong part for them, and it's a big thing, like Ryan Day. And then, like, it's almost good, but people don't. They're mad about the thing.
It loses at the box office.
It loses because it wasn't as good as they wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And then, like, you're like, oh, does that guy suck at acting? Like, no, he doesn't suck at acting. He just picked the wrong thing. It was didn't work out the right way. And then all of a sudden you watch him doing something else, and you're like, oh, crap.
Maybe I didn't see the vision here.
Yeah, maybe I didn't see it. I'll give you Taylor Kitsch as an example. Great actor. Great. But he did a lot of stuff where you're like, ugh. Is he just getting this because he's handsome? Is this a he's tall and handsome kind of a thing?
Michigan is Ryan Day's John Carter.
Yeah, exactly. It is.
If you get that reference in the chat, I'll be your friend.
Yeah. So that's just where I think it is. I don't think he's ever, like, I think if he wins the national championship this year, that's where people will start to maybe realize, like, oh, well, he won it. Like, things are different now. We don't have to put all our eggs in this Michigan basket.
Yeah.
But because this particular year wasn't a good year to do it, because Oregon's there undefeated and they beat you. You can't have a second loss because Penn State and Indiana didn't have a schedule that would deal them a second loss other than you. So while you should theoretically be in over both those teams because you beat them, well, you lost 2 conference games and they lost 1. So just by the first tiebreaker, you're already gone.
Right.
And, there's already a team in there with 0 losses. They're 12-0. You're 10-2. The other 2 are 11-1. Yeah, you're their 1, but, so that sucks. So now you're sitting there going, well, we know we're going to make the playoff, but they'll probably get to host. You would think they'll probably get to host. But what if they wind up playing a team that's a terrible matchup for them? You know, or maybe they don't get to host. Maybe they have to go to Notre
Whose
Dame.
music is that? Michigan.
Yeah. Maybe they have to go to Notre Dame, who's pissed off about not counting all 4 downs. Or what was it they didn't do? All the people on the field.
12 men on the field.
No, they had 10 men on the field.
Oh, yeah.
They had 10 men on the field in a goal line situation. Yeah, like 11. Dang it.
I knew we were
10 is
missing.
such a round number. Why isn't it 10 on 10?
I was missing something.
Do we need a left guard? No. But yeah, it's so that's that. When we come back,
Speaking of Michigan and Ohio State.
Michigan, Ohio State. I want your opinion. I gave mine yesterday, but I do like your perspective on these things. Is flag planting the dab of 2024, where the first time somebody did it, like, oh, that's kind of a cute little celebration there. And then, like, from Michigan, Ohio State on down to the rest of the day, it got progressively stupider.
Yeah.
And stupider and stupider, which is why the internet sucks. Because, you know, there's a time where somebody was like, oh, did you hear that they played, like, they'd seen like a highlight on SportsCenter, like, oh, that was neat.
Yeah, when you had to get it from carrier pigeon, nobody knew
like,
that anybody was
well,
fighting.
well, good, that's funny. Well, that's not going to happen here. You know, I don't have to worry about that happening here. We'll do our own thing. And then
Arizona State, ASU, or Arizona State and Arizona. Like,
yeah, North Carolina State, Florida State, like, and they all got, and look, Steve Sarkisian had to he's like, nope, unoriginal, too late. If you guys had played at 11, we might have been able to do it, but nope, it's 10:30 at night.
tired, going to bed.
That happened a long time ago. No. I get why you want to do it. I don't blame you for wanting to do it, but, think of something else.
Is this the dab?
Run around the stadium. I don't know. Is
Yeah.
it the dab? We'll come back and talk about that. This is 365 Sports.
Fantasy Sports EVO, the next evolution of daily fantasy sports. Tired of traditional fantasy sports where you spend hours upon hours studying individual players? EVO's unique team-based platform makes it easier than ever for all sports fans to play. No need to know individual players. Just choose your contest, select your teams, and enjoy the game. Whether you access our website from a desktop, mobile device, or the app, the experience is the same. EVO is for all sports fans. Join Fantasy Sports EVO and experience the evolution.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back. Royden Ogletree alongside my Tuesday Twinkle Star. I don't know. I
don't like that.
I don't like
I
it
don't like
either.
that at all.
Yeah.
Can we go to break and start over?
Yeah. No. Hold on. Let me just end scene.
Okay.
And Royden Ogletree, the Tuesday Thunder Dunk. No. Okay, and scene. Hold on.
All right. Three. I'll count you in.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
And Royden Ogletree, who has no nickname because, why does he need one? That was stupid of anybody even to think of that.
That was dumb. I don't know why would we do that? Why would anybody need a nickname or should try to feel important or loved?
Sometimes you just got to work things out.
Yeah. We'll come up with something eventually because we've been trying to do that for
No.
Nothing rhymes with Tuesday.
No, I know. And
it's like orange.
Our Tuesday tickle me elbow. No, that's weird. That's weird. And
in
everybody
case you want
tickle
to
and see
know,
what happens.
In case you want to know what we get up to after the show here.
Yeah. It's a team building thing.
Yeah,
I don't know, people have corporate tickle fights. It's a big, I've heard at Google, they're like, all right, everybody,
everybody line up to tickle Dan.
Everybody, it's Dan's birthday, and everybody, let's go give him a tickle. You get 30 seconds to make him laugh. If not, you got to move on.
Hey, boss, I really don't feel like tickling Dan. Damn it, you're gonna tickle Dan.
Yeah, I'm Dan, and I really don't feel like getting tickled. Dan. We've all seen your work lately. You need a good tickling. You'll feel better. You'll feel
HR
better.
signed off on this.
HR signed off on it. Yeah, exactly. HR is fine with it. Don't worry about it.
Join us for our Friday pillow fight.
You agreed to it in the company when you signed the company manual.
Yeah, terms and conditions, like the South Park episode. You better read it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Royden, the flag planting, field storming, like all these things, and I'm not against them. I just think that people need to have a historical perspective on certain things, and you don't have to do it. Like, you have to save them. I was just on your station. Lauren Westbrook did a story about field storming, and look, I get it. You want to be a part of it, but like, you do have to pick your spots. The problem is that you have schools like Tennessee, or like everybody's like, hey, we're going to storm the field for everything, and you're like, like Tennessee stormed the field. They beat Alabama twice in a row at home, and they stormed the field both times. Like, no, you have to save that field storming.
Aren't the same kids, Paul? Except for half of them might be, but
yeah. I know they're not the same kids, but the thing is that like, we're all part of the same alumni collective wherever we go.
Right.
So whatever they did, we have to do something different. We have to appreciate the history of things. And again, I can't expect people to know history anymore. We barely teach it.
People to read a book.
We barely teach it in schools. And I'm not even talking about like, look, I'm expecting 20-year-olds to know it. There are plenty of 60-year-olds. Just doing a podcast has let me know that like, people don't know functional things about history.
Yeah, that seems fair.
Or like don't apply the lessons we've learned in the way that like you should.
Do you have specific examples that you would like to get? No, I'm kidding.
I absolutely do not. I absolutely do not.
What do you mean by like the history of like flag plant?
Okay,
like,
so here's the deal.
I know
Field
back as far as like
planning, like
Baker Mayfield is my.
Okay, and look, he's the guy who kind of started that thing at Ohio State.
Yeah.
Now this last weekend, like everybody wanted to do it everywhere. I went through it on Twitter this week with a lot of Gator fans because I thought them planting the flag on 2 and 10 was lame. I also thought a couple years ago, Garrett was here, when we stormed the field and beat 6 and 5 Florida, then that was also lame because the rivalry used to mean something. It used to be like the biggest thing. And the fact that I know that neither of these schools have been good at the same time to where it means the same thing again for a while, but an appreciation of it's only a big deal when we're both a big deal, to me, should be a thing.
Or one isn't a big deal and you beat the higher ranked.
Vanderbilt and Alabama, totally justified. 40 years. No one had experienced that. No one in that stadium had reasonably experienced it.
Some 70-year-old running out there.
Like, hey,
we did it.
Yeah. A guy who was like 62, like, I was here when we beat him in 84.
My leg.
Yeah, that's it. But to just continually do these things, I just want some originality, some flair, some pizzazz, something new. Also, I think the better thing is spite, where, no, we beat you. We're just not going to celebrate it all that while because we thought we should have. Like, this is exactly
from like a
what we all
player's
thought should
perspective, or like fans, because fans don't care about that.
Yeah, fans don't care about that. Just as a person of like that knows that the best revenge is living well.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you're just like
making your opponents irate that you're doing
like,
that you're doing okay.
Like, oh yeah, no. I thought it was going to happen. I'm not going to go nuts about it. Like, I had fun, but like, it's over now. It's on to the next.
Right.
But that's how I feel about it.
I wonder if this weekend, because you posited it, if it was all due to social media.
I think a lot of it was.
You really think so? Because some of those were happening like the exact same time, it felt like.
Well, some of them were, but the first one was Michigan. Like, Michigan-Ohio State was the one.
Right.
And then everything that happened after that, like, it wasn't Michigan-Ohio State from the 11 o'clock kicks all
somebody
day.
else was
like
doing it
at the 2:30 and the 6 and the 7 o'clock kicks. Those are all the ones that were like, ooh, hey.
Yeah, it felt a little like group psychosis a little bit.
Yeah.
When something, crowd psychosis a little bit when something like that happens. But I don't know. I think, look, if you're getting people maced at midfield, maybe we've gone too far. I think anytime Mesa's involved in anything, maybe it's gone a little bit too far. And I think that, so that gets a little out of hand. I do think it shows why I mentioned earlier why like these rivalries and stuff still matter, especially even to kids who, weren't alive when so-and-so beat so-and-so or when this rivalry got really heated this one time and yada, yada, yada. I don't really have, I hate to see like all out brawls in the middle of the field. And maybe some people are like watching this going like snowflake, but I hate to see when kids are getting in all out brawls in the middle of the field over stuff like this, because you could kind of let it go and people will scoff at that and be like, no, you can't do that to our sacred grass. That's our sacred grass. You can't do anything to our sacred land. And it's just like, all right, man, they still won and they're going to get out of there no matter what with the win. So getting into an all-out brawl after the fact, a little silly. But I guess you can't let somebody go plant a pitchfork in the middle of your field without hearing about it.
Yeah.
But they also kicked your ass up and down the field. So, I don't, maybe take your licking and move on. But also, I don't know.
Yeah. So,
is it the dab? I don't know.
Is it the dab? I don't know. We'll see. Well, Royden, we have a video from Peyton Soysher that we're going to play about his thoughts on what's going to go down tonight with the CFP. So that's going to end our time together today.
Oh.
I know. That means you got to go back to your other job.
I don't.
Like,
can I just stay here and talk to y'all all day? You don't even have to put me on camera.
Yeah, you can. Look, you can sit. There's a chair right there next to Emery.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes there's snacks. Probably not today, but sometimes.
I'm very hungry.
Yeah, sometimes there's snacks. You've got plenty of time between things. There's a lot of cholesterol corner.
I imagine texting my boss and being like, I'm just going to chill out.
Yeah.
What do you mean? No, I'm just going to be here.
Oh, yeah. You mean, look, we're cool with him.
Yeah.
We're cool.
To the extent of which you're just, not allowing his employees to go back to work.
Hey, I could imagine just calling him like, Josh, what's up, buddy? Oh, hey, Paul, how's it going? Hey, Royden's going to party with us today. Is that cool? Like, no, it's really not. We really need him here. Like,
it's cool.
Oh, come on, Josh, be a guy. Come on.
It's like, ask your mom if I can stay over because if I ask her, or ask my mom if I can stay over because if I ask her, she's going to tell her no.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to tell a quick story. It reminded me because I said be a guy, and I only heard that one time in my life from someone. I was living in Tampa. I was 23, and there was a dude who lived the apartments I lived in. I lived on the ground floor, and there were 3 floors, and all the apartments had like a patio or balcony, and so it was a cool little place to live, I guess. It was, but there's a dude above me who's a very this was like the most Florida guy you'd ever seen. He was always at that apartment. I don't think he worked. And then he was dating, he was very skinny and scrawny. I'm talking 175 soaking wet at 6'2",
I know the guy you're talking about.
Just like that. And his girlfriend was about 350. She was believe me, I don't envy the guy who lived above me, and that guy is another story for another day. He was the handyman, and he and his girlfriend had some kinks. Where
did you live?
Tampa.
Okay.
Tampa. But so anyway, one day this guy, he's eating the Bucks are playing. Another guy across the way had a cannon he used to fire off every time the Bucks would score a touchdown.
God.
Yeah. So he's throwing oyster shells and shrimp tails and chicken wing bones just down. And they're my buddy and I are watching the game, and I look out and because where the sun was, I had the blinds closed, but you could kind of see through them,
the shadows of chicken wing bones.
Something, and my friend's like, hey, I think something's falling down on your patio. And I was like, so I go and I look, and it's just this mound of food waste. And so I go out there and I'm like, hey, the hell, man. And he's like, oh, dude, I'm sorry. He just had a couple. And I was like, hey. So he comes there and then like half-ass like sweeps it up. And his girlfriend was just up there. Yeah, you're disgusting. Rah, 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 rah. And I was like, oh God. She came down and like apologized to me later. And she was like, oh, he's just a mess. I'm like, yeah, I can tell. Like, you know, I know who's paying the bills in this house. Yeah. Like, you know, I know his band's going to make it one day.
Yeah.
You know, good luck to that. So then one day I come down and I had 2 chairs on my patio and there was no gate around it. So I just had these chairs. And so he's sitting on my patio in these chairs. And I'm like, can I help you? He's like, yeah, my old lady kicked me out. And then like simultaneously as her saying this, I look and like he's moved all of his clothes that she threw off the balcony like over into because it was dark, like into the corner on my patio.
Was he going to squat on your balcony?
Like, I mean, I'm on the first floor. So like he's like, so he had moved that. And I could still see a shirt hanging off the second floor one. But again, it was dark, so at first I didn't see it. I just saw him sitting there under the security light. So it was always on. So, which I think was considerate of him because, like, there's a chance had, like, I walked past it and it come on, he was sitting there, that he was going to get his ass whipped. Like, I've just been like, oh, what the hell? He's like, hey, man, do you mind if I crash at your place tonight? I'm like, I don't even know you. And he's like, my old lady threw me out. I'm like, look, man, I gave him like, I had like 75 cents in my pocket.
Oh my God.
And I was like, here's 3/4 as a payphone at the office. Go that and please get this crap out of here. Like you can leave it here until you get your ride here.
Yeah.
But like, please get this crap out of here tonight or I'm throwing it in the garbage tomorrow. And he's like, come on, be a guy. I'm like, no. Why do you think we're friends? Their only other interaction was you littering on my porch.
By the way, most tame Florida man story that I've ever heard.
Yeah, but look, here's the thing. I promise you that guy has way other Florida man stories.
Oh, he has several anacondas.
That's just his Florida man on a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
You know, it was around this time of year, as a matter of fact, so it was dark early. So I got home from work. It was like 8 o'clock, and he was just like,
mind if I crash?
Mind if I crash at your place just for the night, brother? And I'm like, no,
First of all,
you.
not just for the night.
No, absolutely not. No.
You'd be waking up in the morning, he'd be eating your Frosted Flakes and be like,
and then
what's up?
Like, I sat and like, I left the blinds like a quarter open. I'm sitting there watching TV, just waiting for him to actually like get up and leave. And then eventually I have like, go make your call.
Yeah. Imagine calling the cops.
I was this close. I was talking to my dad, and he's like, well, go throw him out. I'm like, I have twice. Like, I can't, you know.
He's really sad.
He looks like one of his flip-flops is broken, man. I don't know. His flip-flops. I don't want him walking on the, you know.
His Oakleys were shattered. Have a heart.
On clearly the broken glass of beer bottles he's thrown down here.
Right.
Like, I don't want his foot to get cut. All right, Peyton Sorsher, rankings right now, comes up right next. Shahan Jayaraja on the show today. We mentioned him earlier. We also have a lot of people. Ryan Harklow, Iowa State sideline reporter and great defensive lineman for them. Dave Bartu, college football matrix. Off the radar, Rod Babers from Inside Texas. Inside Texas?
I think it's On Texas.
On Texas. I'm sorry. On Texas. My apologies. What? On Texas football. On Texas football and John McClain and our Big 12 North pod, which we could not get to yesterday because we were loaded up. This is the triple option. Here's Peyton Sorsher.
Week 14 of college football. Rivalry weekend was in full effect. All of the flags have been planted at center field. All of the teams now have their bragging rights. We had crazy upsets at the top. We had really, really complicated scenarios now at the bottom. But now that all of the games have finished, where do we think the Tuesday rankings release from the playoff committee is going to leave all of the teams? Let's dive in right now and look at where the Big Ten and the SEC stand in those top 12 ranked teams to see where we might see any complications. So here we are. Let's go ahead, and here is the projected Week 15 rankings from rankingsrightnow.com. You can go ahead and go into rankingsrightnow.com, create yourself a free login, and play around with the what-if simulation tool. But as of right now, this is where the machine learning algorithm, which is trained on prior voting from the playoff committee has all of the teams. The biggest question up top is where will Ohio State drop to? Now, Ohio State had a terrible loss against Michigan at home in Columbus. No one saw that coming. They were a 20-point favorite going into the game. Does that drop them below teams like Notre Dame and Penn State? Ohio State already has a win over Penn State this year. So are they going to honor that win? I could see Notre Dame and Ohio State flipping right here, but that's where the questions start to arise. Does Penn State move ahead of Ohio State? Penn State's only lost one game this year. Ohio State has only lost Penn State's lost one game this year. Ohio State's lost two, but one of them was the number one Oregon. They definitely have a much tougher schedule. So it'll be very interesting to see where the playoff committee has all of those different teams for that 3 through 6 range, right? Do they go below Georgia? All these different questions that are so interesting about who will have that home field advantage going into the playoffs. So as of right now, the algorithm has them at 3. I personally think the algorithm is wrong on this one. I would have them a little bit lower. But if we take a look at the Big Ten, Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, Indiana, there is no real reason to believe that any of those teams will drop out of the top 12 after Championship Saturday. Oregon and Penn State are going to play for the Big Ten championship. Even if Oregon loses, they're going to drop down maybe 1 or 2 or 3 spots. If Penn State loses, they're not going to drop out of the top 12, I don't think. So now you have Indiana, Penn State, Oregon, and Ohio State that will all be included in that top 12. Where things get complicated is when you start to look at the SEC. Right now, the loss for Miami opens things up for teams like South Carolina and Alabama. Why did South Carolina jump teams like Ole Miss and Alabama? Well, it's because they played a tougher opponent. They beat Clemson. Clemson is now projected to fall all the way down to 17. So there is one last spot for South Carolina and Alabama right now, right? Clemson and SMU are playing in the championship game for the ACC. If Clemson beats SMU, there is going to be an enormous question for the playoff committee of, do you move Clemson into an outright 12? Or are they still on the outside? Does SMU stay in the top 12? But if SMU wants to stay in the top 12, or if the playoff committee, I should say, wants to keep SMU in the top 12, that means that someone down here is going to have to get sacrificed for it. So, does South Carolina or Alabama have an outside chance of getting in? The odds do not look good right now. They need Clemson to lose just to be still relevant in the conversation. If Miami moves up to 11 and South Carolina is 12 or 13, that's going to be almost a death sentence to them. Right now, we have to really figure out where South Carolina and Alabama and Miami fit into all of this. The playoff committee is going to give that Tuesday rankings release, and that is going to essentially say whoever is higher between Alabama and South Carolina, who has the chance of getting in. Whoever is the lesser of the two will be kicked out. And so therefore, we're only looking at Texas, Georgia, and Tennessee as the only 3 teams in the SEC. If we go back a couple weeks ago, it was like 5 or 6 teams in the top 10 that were SEC dominant. We're now only looking at 3 teams that are going to make out of the top 12, which I think is a huge surprise to everybody. So stay with us all week on the Triple Option with Paul Catalina with 365 Sports. We're going to be going through all of the different rankings, all of the different projections going into Championship Saturday, what this means for everybody, who's in, who's out. There is so much to discuss going into the final weekend of regular season play, of college football play before we finally have our answers of what the playoff is going to look like. I'm Chief Rankings Officer Peyton Soysher on the Triple Option with Paul Catalina.